What's going on, you guys? It's me, AnarchYxNinja. So, we're actually recording a video today. So, if you can't tell, I'm kind of sick. Not fully sick, but I might be more sick tomorrow, is my guess. I don't know. But, anyway, we got to get on a record video because we don't have a stockpile. So, yeah. Especially if I get sick. Because of late when I get sick, it's like 3-4 days I'm not doing nothing. So, we need to get a stockpile. And luckily, that's a lot of droids. Luckily, I never remember the name of the show, even though I just watched it. Skeleton Crew came out today. The 3rd episode came out. So we'll just give our thoughts because I know not everyone's super excited for that show. But it's actually, so far, I'm enjoying it more than Acolyte. Which is kind of sad, but, you know, hey. It is like the Goonies, for those who haven't seen it. But episode 3, spoiler warning, blah, 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 blah. We didn't do a first video to this. We talked about it on stream, so. Yeah, but basically what I said in that stream was, what worried me was going to happen moving forward is they're going to stop following the story the way they are. Like, they're going from point A to point B, and the story is, I guess, following a linear path. They're not showing, okay, we got the ship, then we go back, and now we're going to show a flashback. They're not doing none of that, which I love. They're just going, like, each thing happens, and then they move on to the next. You're not having flashbacks like the Acolyte, which I love. So that was my concern going into episode 3, because we knew they were going to show the parents. And I'm like, I don't want to see the parents. We just had 2 exciting episodes where the kids leave. They're on an adventure, going to break out of prison. And then I don't want to go back and see the parents for some extended period of time and waste time with them. It's just not what I want to see in the show. Let's keep it more interesting. So we started episode 3 with them showing the parents. But it was like a 2-minute thing, and then they moved on, and the rest of it wasn't. So that... fantastic. That's the way I want the story to be told. I'm not that interested in the parents. I get we need to see them. You know, hey, they're looking for the kids, blah, 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 blah. Gonna tell us more about At-Atten, the planet they're on, probably through the parents' point of view, but they didn't dilly-dally on it, which I loved. We didn't have any waste of time. So far through 3 episodes, that's good. Side note, the only thing I really have negative to say is I didn't like the parents' acting. Like, I'm very glad we're not seeing a lot of the parents. In the stream, I roasted the dad's acting, and on this one, I don't know how to say this without triggering people, but there is 2 mothers by the looks of it. They never said that, but there's 2 women, and they're holding hands, so it's left for you to put 2 and 2 together. Not that I care about that personally, especially when they gloss over it like that. I really, they're not dilly-dallying on it, is my point. But the thing I will call out about one of the mothers, there was a scene where they're nervous and she's missing her child, and one of those mothers, the acting, it was like such a fake face. So again, 2 of the, how many parents is that? 4 or 5 there? I haven't really liked their acting very much, so I'm very glad we're not seeing that. But anyway, let's move on to the more exciting parts. We were right, but that's pretty much everybody that, I don't know names, so... forgive me. If you're new and you're like, oh, this guy's gonna, analyze... No, dude. I literally just finished watching it. I can barely breathe. I got on. And I'm horrible with names. But the Jedi guy, Jude Law, we speculated he was the captain that we saw got arrested in episode 1, which, ta-da, we're right. So, that's not really a surprise, but everybody said that. So, I mean, kind of easy to guess that one. But, what else happened? There was something else I said on the stream that I was worried about, and then they didn't do it, and I'm very happy, and I wanted to report on it, and now I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. But, what was it? Hold on. If you came here expecting a well-put-together video, you came to the wrong place, bro. You came to the wrong place for this one, and I just can't remember what it was. But anyway, so far I'm enjoying the story. I like the way the story's being told. It's not the most interesting for me. I'm not really into the Goonies-style movies. I know it's a good movie, but I'm not... It's just not what I'm into, not my cup of tea. But I'm enjoying this story so far. They still have some action, make it a little believable. It was really cool seeing the X-Wings come flying in. Kind of got me excited for when, on the Thrawn show, we're finally going to start seeing space combat. Maybe we're actually going to get some badass-looking thing. Because the CGI so far hasn't looked shit in this show. Where, if you've watched my opinions on Acolyte, I thought that stuff looked absolutely garbage a lot of the time. So far, we're not seeing that with this show. So that's another positive I'll give to the show. But, what else? I really don't have a lot of thoughts on it. I'm enjoying it so far. There you go. Does that count? It's not my favorite show. It's not like this ain't beating Game of Thrones for me. It's just I can turn it on and watch it and enjoy the story. They're not wasting my time with a lot of these other shows where I was really nervous going into episode 3. It was going to be I don't want to say filler, but I know everybody would use that word. A filler episode where nothing happens and we're gonna, you know, spend a lot of time just kind of wasting. We just kept moving along, which I like. Now we know a little more about At-Atten with that owl character. Again, I don't know any of these people's names, dude. I'm gonna... we got the Asian girl, we got the fucking white girl, we got the elephant, and we got... Well, I can't say... We got curly hair, dude. We can't say his or we'll get in trouble. We're trying not to get this demonetized because it needs to go up today, so we have to be careful how we mention people. But I'm enjoying it so far. It's nothing special, but it gets the job done. I'm enjoying it more than Acolyte, which is pretty sad because on paper, telling the story of Anakin and how he's conceived, if you will, or claimed to be, is an interesting story I'd want to see, but their execution of it just wasn't that good. Now here, I don't particularly find the story very interesting. It's not bad, but it's not, you know, I'd rather learn the story of Anakin or see some massive war. That's what I'm more into personally. But the way they're telling the story is so much better. It's like, wow, this is a nice change of pace for Star Wars. Hopefully they learn from that, but they never seem to do it, and then come next show, they'll be all over the place. But, you know, at least so far, they're not messing up the 3 episodes, so I can enjoy that. I'm still trying to think of that main thing I wanted to praise for the show, and I can't think of it, so maybe that means it's not that big of a praise if I can't remember it. Must not that, be that important. Oh, I guess I could say one thing, that, the pointless cameos 24/7 is something I was kind of worried about. I'm worried about that on a lot of Star Wars shows, but it worried me here. And this episode had 2 spots in particular where I was like, is this going to be somebody we know? And it wasn't, which I liked. At least not that I know. Maybe somebody knows them, but I didn't recognize these guys. But when Crimson Jack, I think that's the pirate's actual name. I don't know, but I somehow remember that name. He's like, I got a friend. She knows. I'm like, okay, are we going to know this friend? When they start out, they don't show who it is. I'm like, oh my god, are we going to see this person? Are we going to know of them? Turned out to be the Owl Girl. I don't know her. Maybe she was in a comic, but from live action stuff, I don't know her, so. They didn't do some pointless cameo there where I thought there could have been an opportunity, so I'm glad they didn't. And then what was the other one? Oh, the X-Wing pilot. When the X-Wings come back to land after they escape, they kind of started showing the pilots getting out, and the camera was focused on them. So naturally I'm thinking it's going to be that same dude we see in Mando. I'm forgetting his name. In Mando and in, what was the other one? What other show was he in? But you know the pilot I'm talking about. We see him all the time. It's in Ahsoka and everything. He's always there. I was expecting it to be that pilot because it is in the same time zone. Or the shows are in the same time period. So I'm very glad it wasn't because it's going to get... Doing those type of cameos gets a little old because it's like this is supposed to be a massive galaxy. Like they just said... In that episode, they narrowed down the planets they were searching for by 99.9% or whatever, and there's still 10,000 planets. So it's like, if the universe is that big, how the hell is one X-Wing pilot on every story? And luckily, they did not do that. So I gotta praise them on that as well, because I really did think it was gonna be him, the way the camera started panning to it. I'm like, oh god, they're gonna show us somebody we know with this camera trick, and they didn't. So, again, I gotta give them props on that. I still think we will get some cameos, but they aren't overdoing it so far. Then we'll see as this plays out. And I remember the other thing I liked in the middle of talking was one of my complaints, not really a complaint, but my one of the things I noticed after episode 2 was we talked about it on stream was why didn't he escape if it was that easy to grab a key? And we said it was probably because he didn't have a ship. He was waiting for the ship. Now I said I would like them to explain that briefly going forward and not gloss over it. Otherwise, I'm going to be left with a head scratcher like, why didn't he just escape when he could have? But we speculated it was because he didn't have a ship, and they'll probably show that briefly. Not a big deal, but like a brief passing mention in the episode. And they did that. So I got to give them credit because they actually explained those type of things. Where, for example, a show like Book of Boba does not explain any of that stuff. And you're left just like, what is this trash I'm watching? This show hasn't done that. There was an opportunity for them to do that, and they didn't do it. They explained it briefly. Like we said, the kids are probably going to ask, why didn't you escape earlier if it was that easy? So they basically did exactly what we said, which I appreciate. Not that they listen to me, obviously. They didn't just leave it some weird plot hole where it's like, oh, well, it needed to fit the story. It's like, it made sense. They briefly explained it, and we moved on. So you erase the negative, or it's not even a negative, but the question that pops in your mind, and you just gloss over it quickly. It's not something big. So far, I gotta give the show props for how they're structuring it. I like it much better than a lot of these other shows they've been doing. Like Book of Boba, for example, with all the flashbacks. Not Kenobi, what's the other one we just watched? Acolyte, there we go. I'm horrible with names, like I said. Dude, where are you going, homie? But we'll see. I still, you know, with all these pirates going around, speaking of cameos, I kind of feel like we're gonna get, oh, I forget his name. I love this dude. What's his name? Hondo. There you go. Jack Sparrow of Star Wars. We might see him at some point. And again, that would have been an example of somebody that might know the galaxy when they were going to show the Owl character, and they didn't do it, so. Anyway, I don't know. If they show Hondo, I hope they do it the right way and not overdo any of these cameos. But my gut prediction for this show is, like right now, obviously, Crimson Jack, the only name I can remember, is trying to get the money on AT-AT, but he's obviously going to start liking the kids. Not in a weird way, YouTube. Not in a weird way. Don't demonetize me, please. This video has to go up today. And he'll ultimately not. He'll start noticing, you know, like, all these kids are nice. I can't do this. He's gonna bring out the good in him because he probably was a Jedi or a Jedi Padawan at one point, but he's gone to the dark side, if you will, being a pirate, doing bad things. But the kids are gonna pull him back to the light. One of the kids is probably gonna show some Force sensitivity. They even kind of hinted at that in this episode very briefly when he's like, you know a lot about the Jedi or something like that. Like, it kind of setting it up like it might be that kid, but I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. Maybe they're just trying to throw us for a loop. But I have a feeling that will ultimately happen. My main prediction is we'll see a cameo with either Mando or it will tie into Luke in his temple. Because they're going to want to... He'll probably drop one of the kids off of them. I don't know. Or maybe they'll introduce him. I have no idea. But Luke does need kids for his Jedi Order, and these kids are there. Again, hopefully they do that right. Because I feel like there's a lot of room for mistakes in there. They haven't really handled Luke very well. Perfect time to use them because we're talking about him. Didn't even mean to, but that's just the way it works.
That's enough.
But so far, I've enjoyed the show. It's not great. It's not like it's my favorite thing I've ever seen, but it's passable for a show I can watch. I was excited to hear, like, oh, the show's out today. Let me watch it real quick. I can go make a video real quick. I was excited. Where Acolyte, I'm like dreading it. Like, oh god, what are they gonna do this time? That's gonna be weird. You know, like what's gonna annoy me as I watch this show? Is it the bad acting? Is it the bad storytelling? Is it the characters I don't want to watch? And so far, I'm not having that problem with this. So I gotta give them props so far. And it's not as kiddie as some people think, because I know some people haven't watched it. They're like, I saw the school episode and I just got off. They gloss over that very quickly, which, again, I agree, because I also don't want to hang around their school all day and just be bored. So, like, they glossed over that real quick, showed how it was briefly, and then moved on. So, if you haven't watched it, I'd give it a chance at the very least. Because it storytelling-wise, it is a better... The way they structure it is better than Acolyte. Doesn't mean it's a more interesting story, personally, for me. Again, I think Acolyte, if they had done it right, could have been a more interesting story for my personal taste, but in terms of how they structure the story, it's just so much better than what we saw in Acolyte. Like, for example, with Acolyte, they always would have a moment where we need something to happen, it's a big plot point, and it never would happen. For example, May I have something to tell you, or Osha, I don't remember which one's which. I think Osha was the good one and then ultimately turned bad, but I think it was Osha. Either way, it's one of those two girls. I have something to tell you. And then he would never tell you. It would always move to the next one, leave on a cliffhanger, or end on a cliffhanger. And they just kept putting it off, putting it off, putting it off. Where in this show, they're like, oh my god, we need to escape from the pirates. Then they do that. They go to that right away. Where if it was an Acolyte, for example, they'll be like, we need to escape from the pilots. And let's have a flashback to them when they were kids and blah, blah, blah. And we're going to spend 30 of the 40 minutes on that episode, and the last ones were going to be spent just running around here wasting time. Like, they aren't doing that. They just, let's go to the next part of the story and move on. You know, which I enjoy that storytelling so much more than the way Disney's been handling it. Because I don't hate flashbacks and things like that, but I don't think they've been handling them very well. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. You know, it depends. But so far, it's a breath of fresh air to not have that type of storytelling where you're like, oh my god, we're going to get to see who's the captain. Oh, sorry. Now we're not going to see it, you know. Another example with bad cliffhanger for me in Acolyte was the first few episodes were kind of slow. They weren't telling me what I wanted to hear. You know, like it was... I wasn't super invested in any of the characters. And they finally revealed, I think this was episode 3, I could be wrong on the episodes, but they finally revealed the guy that I can't remember his name, but he's the dude with the 2 red lightsabers, you know, and he has that awesome villain entrance coming in like, oh, here we go, and next episode. It's like, okay, I don't mind that cliffhanger, but when the show to that point hasn't been very interesting, a cliffhanger really hurts in that spot. because we finally were getting to something interesting. Now I gotta wait a week again before I can see it. Like, you just kind of take the wind out of my sails where I was finally excited. Where here, they're not doing that. They just... So far, it keeps going. I'm sure there'll be cliffhangers. Again, you can do them, you know, at the end of an episode and have it be right, but don't have it be a boring or poorly put together show and then do that late, because it's just gonna help weigh down the show, where so far the show's not doing that. But again, nothing super major's happened either, so, you know, like, if we do, for example, get to see Luke or Mando, I'm sure there will be a cliffhanger in there. They'll probably introduce Mando at the end, but so far the show hasn't been something I'm hating on, so it's much more bearable in that case. You know, last straw that broke the camel's back. So far, my camel's back is fine. I don't gotta worry about a little nitpick, where a show like Acolyte, I'm like, bro, these straws adding up quick, dude. Like, we can't be wasting time with some of this. So far, I give the show a thumbs up. It's worth a watch. Again, it's not going to be the most crazy shit, you know. You're not seeing fleet battles, you know, which is what I personally want to see. I want to get to the Thrawn stuff and see that. So I'm more into the military aspect of it and battles, and this show doesn't have it. It got plenty gunfights, so there's, you know, there is a lot of pirates in it. Spoiler alert. So there is shooting, and, you know, we did get to see some X-wings in action, but it's not going to be the heavy action-packed show. But already has more action in it than I thought the show was going to have, to be honest. I thought they were going to kidify a lot of the action, which up to this point they haven't super done it, minus little things here and there, but it's nothing too bad up to this point. But let's hope it stays that way. Anyway, that's all I got. Wow, perfect time the game ended, because I'm out of shit to say, so... Anyway, I'll remember everything I want to say right after this, unfortunately. But anyway, hopefully I don't get more sick. I might even try to stream after this, because my nose is not too bad. But of late, when I get sick like this, the first days like this, where your nose is a little messed up, not bad, you start getting hope, like, hey, I'm not going to be sick. And then the next day you wake up and you just can't even breathe, you're coughing. But so far, I'm okay. So maybe I'll still get in the stream after this. I'm debating, but whatever, doesn't matter. Anyway. I'll see you guys later. Let me know your thoughts if you watched it or didn't watch it. Let me know your thoughts. But anyway, I'll see you guys later. Bye.